Hello, I'm Rosie Jackson. I'm very interested in the lives of mystics from both East and West, and this poem is about Margery Kempe, a contemporary of the famous medieval recluse Julian of Norwich, who had a vision of Christ and then wrote about her revelations. But Kempe was rather more eccentric. She also lived in Norfolk in the late 14th century, but far from being a recluse, she was a wealthy businesswoman from King's Lynn. She owned several businesses, including a brewery, and she was married with 14 children. Kempe too had visions of Christ, but the effect on her was to leave her sobbing at the thought of God's mercy. In fact, she made rather a nuisance of herself, crying all over the place. Priests and bishops got very impatient with her, but they couldn't exclude her from the church because of her wealth. She also travelled widely for a woman of that time. She went on pilgrimage to Italy, Spain and the Holy Land. And this poem about her has a rather long gestation. It began as a novel about 25 years ago and sat gathering dust. Then last year I tried to condense it into a long narrative poem, and when that didn't work, I chopped it up into this more contemporary version. And along with other poems about mystics, it will be in my new collection of poetry, Love Leans Over the Table, from Two Rivers Press. The Boisterous Sobbings of Margery Kempe. And if she cries, it's because her blood is thin, the marrow sucked from her bones by 14 children. If she doesn't sleep, it's because God circles her quarried pelvis like a buzzard, folds her over like a prayer, pours her to the ground as if she's made of water. If she falls out of herself, into herself, repeats herself like a canticle, Christus amor meus est, it's because the light of the world sits on her bed, lets her know who she was before she splintered into pieces. If mud spatters her skirt, if her head is blue from banging on the ground, it's because she knows the weight of love, the weight of a man hanging, his body pulling down the sky, the world's suffering pressing on his scalp like an inverted pyramid. If she rolls in church aisles for priests to stumble over, it's because their tongues are yellow with butter and do not speak silence. If she grieves before bishops at Ely Cathedral, it's because she's heard a girl in France has been set alight for hearing sacred voices. If she accrues wealth in her mill and brewery, it's to buy chastity from her husband, servants for her children, travel to Spain, Jerusalem, Rome. If she cries over a splinter of wood from Calvary, it's because this is a tree that has touched a man with holes in his hands. And if she sobs before Julian of Norwich, it's because she feels herself believed at last by a woman who knows God is not a noun, but a verb. The very act of causing, doing, birthing, dying, loving, weeping, smiling, falling, rising, everything.